adherence to formal or conventional rules and traditions in art or literature. Academicism. I've recently fallen in love with a painting by a French artist, Alexandre Cabanel's The Fallen Angel. Now, this painting doesn't need to be dissected by an art snob to truly feel the atmosphere that it's just oozing. Cabanel's picked to pieces the fallen angel, Lucifer, moments after being casted out of heaven. We see on his face signs of anger, pain, humiliation, and shame. It's a painting that you can almost understand by instinct alone. A painting that was looked at by the Art Academy, was scoffed at, laughed at, and was ultimately rejected. Luckily, today in modern times, we can look back and see how wrong the stringent binary of art was and how gatekeepy it was with pushing away talented artists. But unlike the popularity that the Fallen Angel now has today, I want to tell you about a video game that has almost had the same sort of treatment. A game plagued by lies, scandals, and was ultimately shoved out the door to die. Today I want to talk to you all about Punchline's Rule of Rose.
Say where is my shame when I call your name? So please don't set me free. I'm as heavy as can be. I will do you harm. I will break my arm. I'm a victim of your charm. Don't love yourself just to breathe.
Straight off the bat, you can feel the atmosphere of this game's presentation. One of the many highlights of this game is showcased by the score that was put together by Yutaka Minobe, who was a former composer at Sega before taking on the job of Rule of Rose. I remember one of the first things that I kind of took away from Rule of Rose when I first heard of it was the music, was the soundtrack, and I would constantly practice a bunch of dances to the OST. I hope you guys enjoyed that little intro dance that I made. I'm not too good at dancing to that style of music anymore, so it was very chopped up. But the aura of Rule of Rose is loneliness, dejection, a feeling of uneasiness. And this is exactly how the game is. From boot up, you can tell that there's something off about this game, almost criminal, I felt at points while playing. One of the many highlights, I guess you can call this a highlight, is that I do not believe that there is a cutscene that takes place in this game that I just simply did not feel unease or on edge while watching. The game's atmosphere is put in place to make the player feel uneasy, and it accomplishes that almost to an alarming degree. To really highlight this unnerving backdrop of Rule of Rose, the developer's Punchline gave us the protagonist, Jennifer, whom as soon as you start the game, you can tell that she's unwanted, almost as if she's infamous or detestable. You play as her and you realize she's a quiet, demure protagonist. She's not the regular survival horror protag that you see, a tough, brooding war soldier with a degree in 15 martial arts and a gun specialist range the size of the Niagara Falls. She's just a regular civilian, like you or me. In the game, you don't pick up chainsaws, huge knives, or any other out-of-the-world weapon. You start out with a fork, a kitchen knife, and you're just told to defend yourself. The real enticing bit about Rule of Rose is truthfully the story. And I've watched plenty of videos on this game after completing it, and I feel as though, no offense to other people who have talked about this game, but I feel like they've kind of done people a bit of a injustice, excuse me, when it comes to talking about this game. And that has to do with the way they approach telling people about this game's story. So I'm going to tell you what Rule of Rose is to the best of my ability. Rule of Rose is about a young woman, Jennifer, who finds herself trapped in a society run by children. And I don't know about you, but I know I've been a child once, and boy, was I an asshole. So imagine seeing these little creatures run a society. Your protagonist Jennifer finds herself in a hierarchy system. The bottom of the hierarchy system. And I mean, it doesn't take a genius to realize, just look at how adults treat hierarchy systems. When a person feels like they're better or superior than somebody, they treat them like trash. Imagine how children are going to react to a hierarchy system. From the onset, like I said before, Jennifer is unwanted, treated like trash. But there's something strange about people's rejection of her. There almost seems to be a bit of a history between her and the children. A history that you, the player, must uncover. That's the story of Rule of Rose. I'm sorry, I really do hope I did that explanation hope I did that explanation justice. Because I've watched a couple other videos and I feel like people are giving away too many plot points about this game. I think I said something. I think I said one thing that might have like been too much, but I hope I gave you guys enough like juice to really become a bit interested in this game. Because when I say that this is, I will put this out right now and say I truthfully believe that Rule of Rose has the best story of any survival horror game that I've ever played. And yes, I've played Silent Hill 1 and 2. Be mad at me all you want. I said what I said. And this isn't a diss towards Silent Hill 1 or 2. I adore those games. In actuality, I feel as though if you enjoyed Silent Hill 1 and 2, specifically Silent Hill 1, Rule of Rose is a must play if you love narrative survival horror games. This game is a must play. You will not be disappointed. But how can I claim that a game that most people probably haven't even heard of until reading my title is better than what is considered one of the best video games ever, if not one of the best horror survival games ever, narratively speaking? Unfortunately, Rule of Rose never had the opportunity to spread its petals, if you will. Rule of Rose is a game that has been banned throughout a crap ton of countries, and it's been banned for one simple reason. Do you think you can guess? Try it. You're taking too long to guess, I'm going to tell you anyways. Rule of Rose was dragged through the mud and banned for the simple fact that it's a video game. I want to give you guys a little bit of a story of society back in the days. Just for context, I was born in 2001. I'm 21 right now, but I remember the landscape of gaming when it came to adults when I was a child. A few months after Rule of Rose had come out and it was torn apart by media, another game was also being trashed by media and was almost banned, just like Rule of Rose. It was Rockstar's Bully, a game that I actually did play shortly after release. The landscape of gaming when it came to news coverage was always negative. I remember growing up and I had teachers who would actively tell me that I would do bad things within schools because I played video games, and I can't say what they would tell me because of YouTube and YouTubeness, but I will censor it by saying they claim that I would scoot in a school. They claimed I was a school scooter. I mean, I remember feeling like, you have to remember I was first grade, second grade at the time, and I would have these 30-year-olds, adults, tell me as a child, plant in my mind that because of video games, that I would be this senseless, mindless killer. I remember one specific teacher. She was my first and second grade teacher, then she left for my third grade year, then she came back. And then I went to fourth grade and she was my teacher again. And I had a report. I had to do this report on, I forget what the subject matter was, but I wanted to do it on something that I enjoyed, something that I love, my hobby. It's video games. Look at my channel. I love this medium. It's a lovely medium. And she goes, "Oh, you want to do it on video games? Do it on how video games are turning young boys into violent killers." I remember, even as, I don't know how old you are in fourth grade, being maybe like 10, thinking to myself, how can a person be so deluded to incessantly plant within a child's mind that because of a hobby that they enjoy, that they're gonna become this terrible human being? And I've talked about stuff like this on my channel for the past year that I've been on it, and to be frank, this type of content is so 3 months ago, and I've changed my channel's trajectory and subject matter, so I won't dwell on this for too much longer. But that was the landscape of gaming back in the day. Unfortunately, I don't think things have gotten better. Anytime I see video games talked about in media, it's usually negative. And when people have something negative in their minds, or negative thoughts about a certain group of people within their heads, they will come to any conclusion that agrees with the narrative that they already have in their mind. There were articles written about this game, Rule of Rose, saying that the main subject of it was to promote violence against children. To say that the target of the game was to rape little girls. Just absolutely nasty and vile things that if they had actually played it, or even heard a synopsis of the story, they'd realize that this game and the message behind it is so much more beautiful and nuanced than that. The thing that I love about Rule of Rose, I'm getting giddy talking about this because I really do love this game, is that while other, even horror games to a certain extent, and I'm not about to call out any horror game companies, but you know who you are, some of the subject matter or some of the imagery is very provocative for the sake of being provocative. And I might have mentioned this before, but that's actually how I felt about Rule of Rose when I first started playing it. I was like, what is this imagery and why is it needed in the game? I don't understand it. Symbolism. Everything in this game, I swear, has a reason for being there. There isn't a moment, there isn't anything that I look back on that I remember seeing and going, okay, I understand the purpose of a survival horror game is to be creepy, it's to be scary, it's to put the players on edge, but this is too much. After I finished the game, after I did a bit of research, because trust me, after you finish this game, you're gonna dive into the lore and be like, how did I not see this beforehand? Everything is needed, everything has a purpose. It's not horror for the sake of shock. It's horror for the sake of narrative. The issue, like I said, and I'm very hesitant to talk about this. Negativity will always shine brighter than positivity. I mean, for the same reason that people looked at a game entitled Bully from Rockstar in 2006 and thought that it was literally I won't repeat what event people were equating it to, but they thought of it as, again, I'll self-censor myself, a game about scootering children in schools. The game's about standing up to bullies. It's about standing up for yourself and not letting people in power stomp all over you because they have that authority. But nobody saw that. Everyone saw the title. They saw the company behind it and went, this game needs to be banned. And it almost was. They had to change the name of Bully to Canis Kingdom Edit in a couple of countries to have it even be sold. Rule of Rose was a game that Sony asked to be made. They wanted it as a rebuttal to, at the time, Resident Evil 4 was an exclusive on the on the GameCube. And then the creator was all like, if this game ever comes to PS2, I'm gonna chop off my head. Then the game comes to the PS2 a couple years later. It's all like, man still has his head. I'm all like, how are you gonna make a promise if you're not gonna keep it? I'm joking. But Sony wanted a game like Resident Evil and Silent Hill. And they got it. But they almost got too much of what they asked for. When headlines started coming out about Rule of Rose, Sony got scared. In actuality, Sony didn't want to publish the game. They pulled out. And you know who stepped in? A game about young adults overcoming trauma, children, murder scenes, and mysteries? Persona, baby! Atlus! One thing that I personally love about Rule of Rose is how, for lack of, I don't know a better word, but out of pocket it is. You don't see games tackling these sort of topics with this sort of imagery so much in your face. I talked about this beforehand in a different video about Silent Hill, but when you see a piece of media that really just depicts how you feel, it almost makes the trauma that you may have gone through so much more digestible to understand. Wow, there are other people who felt this way. There are people out there who were able to write about this in such a way that I could almost see myself in these characters. The best way that I can put it is, for people who don't really have an outlet to go in and see a therapist or talk to their friends or friends and family about things that they go through, to see an accurate depiction of some of the things that they might have gone through in a TV show, a movie, in this case a video game, it's almost therapeutic. I play horror survival games as a way of therapy. I know that sounds weird, but I always play Silent Hill games, and in this case Rule of Rose, whenever I just needed to unwind, I guess. But unfortunately for some, they didn't see that, or excuse me, they chose purposely not to see the vision that this game has. They only wanted a story. They wanted headlines, they wanted anger. Now, don't get it twisted whatsoever. There is one thing that you will always hear people talk about when it comes to this game and the downfall of it, and it is the absolute shit gameplay, and I cannot account for this whatsoever. The gameplay is shit. It is shit. It is shit. It is shit. Okay? Do not have your hopes up. It is shit. Rule of Rose plays very similar to Silent Hill-ish? The issue is, right, I'll give you a demonstration of Rule of Rose real quick. So an enemy will be right in front of Jennifer's face, literally, practically kissing her. And you'll throw a straight punch and... what the hell? Absolutely nothing. But then the enemy could be practically across the damn globe and somehow still hit Jennifer with a gust of wind that went in the opposite direction of her location. What the hell was that? Are you even... Yeah, the gameplay is kind of buns, yo. But I will be completely honest in saying that the narrative and atmosphere of the game is really what made me continue playing it. There are a few tips that I have to make the traversal of the combat specifically much more bearable. And that is, avoid enemies whenever possible. The only times you are forced to fight an enemy is 1, if it's a boss fight, and 2, if as soon as you enter the room, you'll get a cutscene playing where an enemy locks the door. Those are the only times that you have to fight. If you do not have any of those 2 signifiers, do not fight. Trust me, it is not worth it. Also, with Huey Brown, I call him Huey Brown as like, I love dogs in horror survival games. Every dog I see in a horror survival game, I call them Huey. Because of the dog from Haunting Grounds, Demento. Sometimes if you use him to search up and sniff certain items, you'll get items like ribbons, socks, and other things of that nature. If you go to the aristocrat box and donate those items, you'll get health items. Use health items only. Stock up on health items for boss fights. Do not use those health items outside of boss fights. For the love of all holy fuck. Oh, hey, Leon. Thank you for censoring me. Why would you give yourself more stuff to edit? You're such a dickhead. I know I am. Anyways, maybe my teacher was right. Those video games might not have mentally messed me up to, you know...
Friendly UAV.
But something's definitely not right in this noggin. So after becoming completely enthralled with this game, there was one thing that I just could not get off my mind, and it is the fact that I truthfully do feel as though Rule of Rose was cheated out of being recognized as one of the greatest horror survival games on the PlayStation 2. And I believe that with all of my heart. The only shortcoming that I feel as though would take away from this game is the combat gameplay. That's it. There were many complications that I learned about in development that came about for this game, and it didn't help with it also having a smear campaign of lies, again, written about it, being banned from a bunch of different countries, and also there weren't very many copies of this game produced, and that's why it goes for a ridiculous price now to actually purchase and have a physical copy of it. But I have heard a rumor, but the original developers who made the game are possibly thinking about porting it? As soon as I heard that, I thought to myself, could this game be released today? And I'm just going to be straight up honest, I'm a pessimistic person. I don't think it could be. If I'm being completely honest, I think the scrutiny that Rule of Rose faced back in 2006, it would probably get double the amount of hate and probably even more heinous things, heinous lies written about it by not just media, social media now. I mean, imagine Twitter getting a load of Rule of Rose. Oh. But I truthfully do wonder, is society ready for a game like this? And Rule of Rose isn't some sort of next level narrative about trauma and da-da. It's not that. It was highlighted, one, again, for it being a video game, and two, the way that it goes about telling the narrative of trauma. Because again, most games don't decide to depict its narrative in the way that Rule of Rose does, and then again, it being a video game, people already have a hatred for gamers and video games of the sort. But I really do hope I did at least a decent job of telling you guys about this game. I'm really vague, I guess, because I really do want people to play this game. I really do. This game it's honestly my game of the year. It's my favorite game that I've played this year, and it's definitely left a lasting impression on me. So I started out this video talking about Alexandre Cabanel, his art piece, Fallen Angel, and how despite it being an absolute beauty of art, and from my understanding, when the Academy looked at that art, looked at Fallen Angel, and dismissed it as a joke, Cabanel agreed with them. He scoffed at the Fallen Angel, said, "I don't even know what I was thinking when I made this." Of course, this isn't art. I don't know if he ever actually recognized how beautiful that piece was. I see it, and I hope he did too before he died. Because I know millions of other people are looking at this piece and going, what the hell were they thinking? I know there are devs of Rule of Rose who probably understand how much of a cult following this game has, but I personally do not think that it is enough. I, with all of my heart, believe that this game should be recognized as one of the top horror survival games on the PlayStation 2, and it was cheated, wrongfully cheated out of that placement by people who did not want to use their brain. I love this game, man, and if anybody, again, if you're a Silent Hill fan, specifically of 1 and even 2, please, I beg you, give this game a chance. You will not regret it. But hey, that's just my opinion. I'm Justice, and I'll see you guys next time. Whew. Peace. Oh, hey, by the way, I didn't exactly explain this, but the thumbnail of this video says period horror. Period horror as in this game takes place in the 1930s, so it's a historical horror story. Not period horror as in menstruation. I realized that would be confusing, so